They say love doesn't come with a contract. Mine did, along with a $1 billion merger, a vanished sister, and a husband who thought I was the enemy. By the time he realized the truth, I'd already decided to leave. I'm so glad you're here for this one. If you're ready to get lost in this story, go ahead and tap the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps the channel grow. Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's find out what happened in this one. The boardroom smelled like leather and desperation. I stood at the edge of it all, watching my grandfather's hands shake as he signed the marriage certificate. His fingers, once steady enough to build empires, trembled over ink that would bind me to a stranger. "Lily," his voice cracked, "I'm sorry." I wanted to tell him it was okay, that I understood, that this was just another mess I'd clean up because that's what I did. I fixed things Emma broke. But the lie wouldn't come. Adrian Cole sat across from me, spine rigid, jaw carved from stone. He didn't look at me when he signed his name, didn't flinch when our lawyers declared us legally married. He treated the ceremony like a hostile acquisition, which I suppose it was. "Congratulations," someone said. The word tasted like ash. 3 hours earlier, I'd been in my apartment, packing for my new job in Seattle. 21, fresh diploma, ready to disappear into a life that was finally, blessedly mine. Then my phone rang. "Emma's gone." My mother's voice didn't shake. It never did. Crisis was her natural habitat. "What do you mean, gone?" She left a note, said she couldn't do it. "The wedding's in 2 hours, Lily. The merger depends on it. Your grandfather? His heart?" I didn't let her finish. I already knew how this story ended. It always ended with me. The Cole estate looked like it belonged in a period drama, all marble columns and judgmental portraits. Adrian led me through it without speaking, his footsteps echoing against floors that had never known warmth. "Your room is on the second floor," he said, first words he'd spoken to me since the boardroom. "East wing. Stay there." "Where will you?" "West wing." He turned and I saw it then, the frost in his eyes. "Let's be clear, Mrs. Cole, this marriage is a legal formality, nothing more. You'll attend events when required, you'll smile for cameras. Beyond that, I expect you to be invisible." Something in my chest went cold. I didn't ask for this. "No?" He stepped closer, and I smelled his cologne, cedar and something darker. "Your sister vanishes hours before the wedding, and you appear perfectly willing to take her place. Convenient." "Convenient?" The word came out strangled. "You think I wanted?" "You think," he interrupted, "that you and Emma planned this, the innocent sister stepping in to play savior. Very touching. I'm sure the board ate it up." Heat climbed my throat. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're here." His gaze dragged over me like I was evidence. "That's enough." He left me standing in a hallway lined with ancestors who probably never known humiliation. I learned it quickly. The first charity gala came 3 days later. I'd never worn a dress that cost more than my college textbooks, never had makeup artists treat my face like a canvas, never smiled for cameras that devoured every angle, every breath, every visible imperfection. Adrian's hand sat on my lower back like a brand. "Closer," he murmured. "You're supposed to love me." I leaned into him, felt his body stiffen. "How's this?" Believable, but his jaw was tight. "Try not to look terrified." "Try not to look disgusted," I shot back. His fingers flexed against my spine. For a second, I thought he might laugh. He didn't. The questions came in waves. "How did you meet? When did you know he was the one? Tell us about the proposal." Adrian answered with practiced charm. I smiled until my face ached. We were a masterclass in beautiful lies. "You're good at this," he said later in the car. Surprise colored his tone. "At lying? At performing?" I stared out the window at city lights bleeding past. "I've had practice." "Your sister." It wasn't a question. "She was dramatic," I said carefully. "I learned early how to manage fallout." "Is that what this is?" His eyes found mine in the rearview mirror. "Managing fallout?" "No," I wanted to say. "This is drowning in it." But I said nothing. Silence, I'd learned, was safer. I started working from the estate library. It was the only room that felt alive. Floor-to-ceiling books, a fireplace that actually worked, windows overlooking gardens Emma would have called rustic. I'd taken a remote position with a consulting firm, nothing glamorous, but it was mine. Adrian found me there on a Tuesday afternoon. "What are you doing?" I glanced up from my laptop. "Working?" He frowned. "On what?" "Market analysis for a tech startup." "You work?" The disbelief in his voice was sharper than any insult. "Did you think I just existed decoratively?" I thought. He stopped. Something shifted in his expression. "You studied business?" "Economics, Johns Hopkins, full scholarship." I shouldn't have added that last part, but his assumption had stung. He moved closer, eyes on my screen. "That's a complex model." "It's a complex market." "You built this yourself?" "Is that so surprising?" His silence was answer enough. He started appearing more often after that, never with apologies, never with warmth, but he'd sit in the leather chair by the fire, working on his own laptop, occasionally asking questions about my projects. I began to see the man beneath the CEO, the way he rubbed his temples when stressed, how he took his coffee, black, 2 sugars, though he'd never admit to the sweetness. The small scar above his left eyebrow that he touched when thinking. "Where'd you get that?" I asked one evening. He looked up, confused. "What?" I gestured to my own eyebrow. "The scar." His hand rose unconsciously, fell off a bike. I was 7. Then, as if realizing he'd revealed something human, "Why?" "Just curious." "Don't be." The wall slammed back into place. Curiosity implies interest, and interest implies caring, I finished silently. God forbid. If you're loving Lily's journey so far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. Now, back to the story. The quarterly board meeting changed everything. I wasn't supposed to attend, but Adrian's assistant had double booked him, and someone needed to deliver the financial projections. I'd helped compile them anyway. "I can do it," I told Adrian that morning. He looked skeptical. "You understand the data?" "Better than most of your board, probably." That earned me a sharp look. "Don't embarrass me." "Wouldn't dream of it, husband." The boardroom went silent when I entered. 12 men, 2 women, all of them watching me like I was an exotic species. "Mrs. Cole," the chairman said slowly, "we weren't expecting—" "My apologies." I moved to the head of the table, connected my laptop. "Adrian's handling the Singapore acquisition. He asked me to present the quarterly analysis." I saw the glances, the barely concealed smirks. Then I started talking. I didn't just present numbers, I dissected them, showed them where they were bleeding money, where they'd missed opportunities, how 3 of their safe investments were about to tank. By the time I finished, the room had a different energy. "That was, one of the directors began. "Thorough," the chairman finished. He was smiling. "Very thorough." Adrian arrived 20 minutes later. His eyes found me immediately, something unreadable in their depths. "Well done," he said quietly. It felt like the first true thing he'd ever told me. That night, he found me on the terrace. "You undermined me today." I turned, confused. "What?" "That performance," his voice was cold again, "was that part of the plan? Make yourself indispensable to the board?" "I delivered a presentation you asked for." "I asked you to deliver it, not reinvent our entire financial strategy." He moved closer, and I saw the rage simmering beneath his control. "You're smart, Lily, I'll give you that. Smart enough to play the long game, get the board on your side, make yourself valuable. Then what? Push me out? Take Emma's place permanently?" The words hit like fists. "I didn't want your money," my voice shook. "Any of this." "I think you saw an opportunity." His eyes were flint. "Your sister vanishes, and suddenly you're here, charming investors, impressing board members." "I was dragged here," the words ripped out of me. "I had a job in Seattle, a life, a future that didn't include being married to someone who hates me." "Then why stay?" "Because my grandfather's heart is failing. Because if this merger collapsed, it would kill him. Because Emma destroyed everything she touched, and I'm the one who always cleans it up. Because I had no choice." Tears burned my eyes. I hated them, hated that he'd broken me, hated that I'd let him. "I never wanted your money," I whispered. "I never wanted you." I left him standing there. That night, I locked my door and cried into pillows that cost more than most people's rent. Adrian found the emails by accident. He told me this later, much later, when explanations still mattered. He'd been looking for correspondence about the merger timeline when he found the folder, Emma, Personal. Against better judgment, he opened it. The first email was dated 6 months before the wedding. "I can't do this. I won't marry him." The response came from their family lawyer. "Your father's company depends on this merger. You signed the contract. Then let them find someone else." "There is no one else. The Coles specifically chose you." "What about Lily?" Adrian had stopped breathing at that point. "Lily is irrelevant. This was negotiated for you." "Then unnegotiated. I'm leaving." The emails continued, Emma planning her escape, the lawyer scrambling. Then, 3 days before the wedding, a message from one of the board members. The younger sister? Could she substitute legally? If both families agree. Make them agree. Adrian sat in his office for 3 hours reading every word. Emma hadn't conspired with me, she'd just run. And everyone else, the board, the lawyers, both families, had used me to salvage their investment. He'd accused me of playing a game I'd never known existed. I'd moved my things to the guest house. It was smaller, simpler, and Adrian couldn't accidentally find me there. I worked, swept, avoided the main estate entirely. So when he appeared at my door on a gray Thursday morning, I almost didn't answer. "Lily." His voice was different, quieter. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He looked terrible, shirt wrinkled, shadows under his eyes like bruises. "I found the emails," he said, "from Emma, from the board." My heart stuttered. "I know what they did." He swallowed hard. "What I did, and I—" The words seemed to cost him something vital. "I'm sorry." Silence stretched between us. "You called me a gold digger," I said finally. "You accused me of conspiracy. You made me feel like a criminal in my own marriage." "I know. You don't get to just apologize and—" "I know that too." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something raw in his expression. "I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserved to know the truth. You were right about all of it, and I was—" He stopped. Wrong doesn't cover it. No, I agreed. It doesn't. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected nothing else. The merger finalizes in 6 weeks. After that, you're free to leave. I'll make sure the divorce is clean. You'll get a settlement, not because you want it, but because you earned it dealing with me. He turned to go. Adrian, he stopped. Thank you, I said, for telling me. He didn't turn back, but his shoulders dropped slightly, like he'd been carrying concrete. This is where everything changes. If you're as invested in Lily and Adrian as I am, show some love by hitting that like button and dropping a comment telling me, would you have forgiven him? Your thoughts keep these stories coming. Now let's see what happens next. He stopped avoiding me after that. Not hovering, Adrian Cole didn't hover, but present in ways he hadn't been before. Coffee appearing next to my laptop, texts checking if I'd eaten, small, careful gestures that spoke louder than words. I didn't trust them at first, but slowly something shifted. Why economics? We were in the library again, late evening, fire casting shadows. I glanced up. What? You said you studied economics. Why? I considered not answering, but his face was open, genuinely curious. My parents used Emma as currency, I said, traded her potential for business deals, social connections. She was an investment. I wanted to understand what that meant, the language they spoke, so I learned it. To protect her? To survive her. He was quiet for a long moment. I judged you based on her. Yes. That was cruel, I finished, and lazy. Both, he agreed. I'm sorry. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it. His eyes held mine. You're nothing like her. I see that now. You're more. The word hung in the air between us. More. I didn't notice when it happened. One day, Adrian was my warden. The next, he was making me laugh. That's a terrible idea, I said, watching him attempt to cook dinner. It's pasta. How hard can it be? You're boiling water wrong. There's a wrong way? I rescued the pot before he could prove there was. We ended up ordering pizza, eating it on the terrace while he told me about growing up with impossible expectations. My father wanted me to be him, Adrian said quietly. Better version, same model. I spent my whole life trying to meet standards that kept moving. Did you? Meet them? He laughed, but it was bitter. I exceeded them, built the company into something he never imagined, and still... He stopped. Still not enough? I finished. He looked at me like I'd translated a language he'd been speaking alone his entire life. Yeah, he whispered. Still not enough. I found him working at 3 a.m. a week later. You're going to burn out, I said from the doorway. Can't afford to. Adrian, I moved closer. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. Real sleep, not passing out from exhaustion. He rubbed his eyes. The Singapore deal closes tomorrow. There's still... I closed his laptop. What are you... You need rest. The deal will be there in the morning. Lily... Bed. Now. Something flickered in his eyes. Are you giving me orders? Someone has to. He stood slowly, and I realized how close we were. Close enough to see silver threads in his gray eyes. Close enough to catch his scent. Cedar and coffee and exhaustion. Thank you, he said softly. For what? Caring. The word hit differently at 3 a.m. The merger finalized on a Tuesday. Papers signed, stocks surged, headlines declared it a triumph. That evening, Adrian found me in the library. "It's done," he said. I know. I'd watched the news, seen his face, victorious, powerful, alone. "Which means you're free." He held out an envelope, divorce papers, pre-signed, and a check for, "I don't want your money." "Lily, I never wanted it." I stood, facing him. "I told you that." "I know, but you deserve—" "What do you think I deserve, Adrian?" The question stopped him. "I think," he moved closer, "I think you deserve someone who sees you from the start, who doesn't need emails and evidence to realize you're extraordinary, who doesn't wound you because he's too damaged to recognize love when it's standing in front of him." My breath caught. "I think you deserve better than me," he continued, voice rough. "But I'm hoping, God, I'm hoping, you'll give me a chance to become better, to be what you deserve. Adrian, I love you." The words fell like stones into still water. "I don't know when it started. Maybe when you demolished that board meeting. Maybe when you stood up to me. Maybe when you took care of me at 3 a.m., even though I'd given you every reason to hate me." He stepped closer. "I love you, Lily, and I know I have no right to ask, but stay, please. Not because you have to, because you want to." Tears blurred my vision. "You broke me," I whispered. "I know. You made me feel worthless. I know. You don't get to just—" "I know." He reached for my hand, hesitated, let it drop. "I know all of it, and I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm different, that I see you, that I—" his voice cracked, "that I choose you, not because a contract says I should, because I can't imagine not choosing you." The library was silent except for the fire crackling. "What if I leave? What if I walk away?" "Then I'll let you go." Pain flickered across his face. "I'll sign whatever you want, give you whatever you need, and I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I found something real and destroyed it because I was too blind to see. And if I stay, then I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." I looked at him, this man who'd been my prison and my puzzle, who'd hurt me and healed himself, who was looking at me like an answer he'd been searching for in all the wrong places. "I didn't want this," I said finally. "Any of it. The marriage, the merger, you. I know. But somewhere along the way," I took a breath, "it stopped being about what I didn't want and started being about what I couldn't imagine losing." Hope flickered in his eyes. "I can't promise I'm ready," I continued. "I can't promise I won't be angry about how this started, but I'm willing to see what we could be if we chose it, really chose it." "Adrian!" I stepped forward, closing the distance. "Choose me," I whispered, "every day, not because you have to, because you want to." "I do." His hand finally found mine. "God, I do." When he kissed me, it tasted like new beginnings, like choosing each other after everything tried to choose for us, like finding home in the last place either of us expected. A year later, I found Adrian in the library at midnight. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "Didn't want to." He pulled me onto his lap. "Wanted to remember this." "Remember what?" "The moment I realized I get to keep you." I laughed against his shoulder. "We're already married." "Legally?" His fingers traced patterns on my spine. "But now it's real. Now you're here because you chose it, because you—" He stopped, and I heard the wonder in his voice. "Because you chose me." "Every day," I reminded him. "Every day," he echoed. And somewhere in that library, surrounded by books and firelight and the weight of everything we'd survived, I realized this was it. Not the marriage they'd forced on us, not the contract or the merger or the performance, but this, two people choosing each other after betrayal, pain, and misunderstanding taught them what choosing really meant. I'd spent my life fixing things Emma broke, but Adrian wasn't broken. Neither was I. We were just two people who'd learned that sometimes the best love stories don't start with desire, they start with a choice. And they continue every single day with choosing each other again. And that's Lily and Adrian's story, from forced vows to chosen forever. If this one hit you in the feels, make sure you're subscribed because I've got more emotional roller coasters coming your way. Drop a comment and tell me your thoughts, and don't forget to check out the next story on screen. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.